and and Carl just gave us a little insight into Maryland politics there. But we are back to the best local talk show you've never heard of. It's 5 o'clock, so we've ordered our drinks, and uncharacteristically, I'm the only person that's lit a cigar today. But that said, it is a cigar bar. So that being said, we talked about the Republican presumptive nominee and some of his issues. The House Select Committee on Bengazi has just issued its report, and actually just issued 2 reports. The minority members of the committee issued their report yesterday, absolutely slamming the chair, Congressman Trey Gowdy, and the majority just issued their report on Bengazi. Alan Moore, can you enlighten us on what was in these reports?
Yeah, so the yesterday report from the minority was amusing. Here's a report that trashes the majority's report, which it has not read. So there's a 900 or 880 page report that was issued today by the majority. The minority made some decisions early on that it was not going to cooperate. It thought this was a political witch hunt. It participated a little bit, but mostly it did not. But it was so certain it knew what the majority was going to write that they wrote a 330 page report trashing the 880 page report, which they had not seen.
Okay.
Now, and they mentioned Hillary Clinton many times in the minority report. The majority report mentions her 3 times. The minority report also mentioned Donald Trump, of all people, 12 times. Needless to say, he doesn't show up in the majority's report. What the majority did was, as Trey Gowdy has described it, I have not read the report. He said, look, I'm a guy, I was a prosecutor. It's who, what, when, and where. We don't get into the why. And the fear of the Democrats was the why will be because Hillary Clinton was asleep at the switch, or she lied, or made all sorts of horrendous decisions about which she lied. As I understand the majority report, it's fact-filled, email after email, and they made a big point. Read it, read it, read it. We won't interpret it for you. And it was interesting to watch his press meeting, because the press was saying, well, what do you think about this about Hillary? What do you think about that? He said, that's not in our report. Now, there are 2 Republicans who were on the committee who wrote a supplemental piece where they do trash Hillary. But that's not what the majority report does. I don't even know how long that is. They were I think it's a 7-person majority, and 2 of them signed on to the sort of why did it happen, the conclusionary report. It's pretty devastating all the way around. Let's talk about the facts for a moment. How poorly prepared we were in Bengazi to provide the sort of basic level of protection that our diplomats expect around the world. My hunch is that there are gaps in coverage in numerous countries. Benghazi, curiously, was a city where a lot of the people that provided information that the West, the U.S. and Europe, used to bring down Libya were headquartered in Bengazi. The late ambassador, Chris Stevens, who was killed in the event, loved Bengazi. He loved the people of Bengazi. He thought it was really important that we have a long-term formal presence in Bengazi. Sadly, Bengazi turned out to be the place where on 9/11, on the anniversary of 9/11, this terrorist attack occurred against a small group of Americans, both in this relatively unprotected consular office, and then there was a CIA station a mile or so away, and there were orders given. Curiously, we'll be learning a lot more about this because some of this stuff is new. that in the middle of the attack, there was a big meeting in the White House that went on for a couple of hours, but early on, apparently, Secretary of Defense Panetta and the President himself said, send in help. None was sent. That was really odd. Now, it wasn't like there was help nearby. The help was in Rota, Spain, which the best help, apart from this small group.
You need to explain why the help is in Rota, Spain.
We don't have that many places where we can keep people.
We have a military
equipped.
base in Rota, Spain.
Yeah.
It's one of the closest to the other place. The other assets would have been out of Turkey, but they would have pulled from Rota before they pulled from Turkey.
So it's not like you're in a hostile area where we don't have a lot of friends, and we're not in a position to have a major massive base and all the attendant
in a country that just had a revolution.
Yeah, I mean, but even in the neighboring countries, the other big the takeaway for me from it was that when a group of CIA contractors did go it got there too late to save Stevens and a person with him. They were in a safe room and they were basically burned out and died of smoke inhalation, and they died pretty early on. But two other guys died who were on a roof, and this group of pretty well organized terrorists. With a lot of equipment, including mortars and other heavy-duty weapons, looked like they might kill 25 or 30. I'm not sure the numbers of these CIA guys. A third force came in and got them out of there. Well, the third force, interestingly enough, that saved them was not the Libyan military. It was a group of folks who had previously been loyal to Muammar Gaddafi. They were the guys who we sort of put out of business, and they're the guys who came in and saved 20 to 30 lives of Americans. It's just interesting. There's just new information that came out of all of this. The whole focus, of course, is, gee, what did Hillary do? When did she do it? Is this a trash Hillary exercise? It raises a whole host of questions about all these other people, but there didn't seem to be anything new about Hillary Clinton. She still has to, has never fully explained how it was that on the one hand she could be saying publicly that it looked like it was triggered by this YouTube movie, but privately saying we think it was terrorism. The person who was harmed the most back then, and I think in this report, was Susan Rice, who was then the ambassador to the UN and then now is the National Security Advisor, who went on 5 talk shows to explain it, used the same sort of talking points and kept elaborating on those talking points. We think it was this movie that had played such a role in Egypt. And in talking to her and looking at the materials she had, not only did she didn't stick to the talking points, which did make reference to this movie, but she took it beyond what any of the supplied talking points showed. It's not clear where that extra stuff came from. It's not in the written record.
Well, a couple of things. It's worth noting that, and Alan is correctly pointing out that the substance of the report, and there's actually a great excerpt that I also have not read all 800 pages that came out today, but there's an excerpt that's saying that the Pentagon, saying the Defense Department did not have resources, clearly laying out State Department resources are in play, Defense Department resources, but the politics and how it's played up prior to this point, we're very much blaming Hillary. And the question now that there is the majority report saying that there were actually several issues at play. And going back to the embassy bombings of the early 2000s, this is not news that there's been issues with State Department security, and this is worldwide.
Okay. I need a couple things so folks understand what a report looks like. When a committee decides to write a report, the majority, the person who's the party that's responsible for that House, be it the House or the Senate, is the entity responsible for writing it. And I know that because I've written some of these reports before. That report is typically not shared with the other side, so I'm not surprised that the Democrats haven't seen it. I'm also not surprised that the Democrats did a rebuttal. And they did a rebuttal because they knew that the Republicans were doing it. So, all right, take that one off the table. As far as what the Republicans were saying, yeah, okay, after your first hearing, I probably could have written the report. Do I think that it needed to be, the obscene 800 pages? No, I think it's pretty easy to write this report. We weren't happy with what she did. We weren't happy with how this happened. And my concern with this report is that similar reports have not been done for other issues. And there have been some dramatic failures in embassies before. I mean, you talked about the early 2000s. I can remember coming into the Coast Guard in '98, and I was had just literally begun my Coast Guard training when Nairobi happened, when the bombings in Kenya happened in August of '98. Then we've got, you've got Beirut in '83. You've got a whole lot of issues. But did we see congressional hearings? Did we see a president get tarred to the extent that folks went after Hillary? No, we didn't. And that's my problem with Benghazi. People died. Somebody screwed up. People died. But the amount of resources that have been spent on Benghazi trouble me because we don't have a budget yet. We don't have bills. We don't have anything right now except for folks fighting and pointing fingers, and the country's falling to bits, and we're supposed to congratulate some committee for doing an 800-page report? No, I'm not going to clap, folks. We've got more important things to worry about.
Carl Tubin.
Well, you reached a point that I was thinking about for about 10 minutes or more, and that is that there was a lot of talk around this time. As you say, that there were funds cut from the budget, and that some of the departments, could have been defense, could have been state, were not given the monies that the president asked for, and that caused some things not to be done that might have been able to deter some of this.
Admiral Ken.
So, two things. On the morning that this attack happened, at the time I was still in uniform in the Pentagon, and the event wasn't even hours old before the narrative started being put forth about the fact that this was the result of a video and a spontaneous demonstration because of that. Several people in the